Salam, guys. Shalom.
Salam.
We are happy to have you here, first of all, and this is a great support for us. And we know that this topic is kind of a little bit sensitive, but your presence is very appreciated because we really need that in this difficult time. We are really, really happy, especially me. Like, it brings back good memories. I used to be a graduate student here, and coming back to this place where I grew, like academically and personally and also socially. This is amazing to be also here to voice my opinion and my perspectives on the conflicts. But before we go ahead and introduce ourselves formally, we need to take just a moment of silence for those who got affected by the conflict in Israel and Palestine. So let's just have a small prayer maybe, or just think about them for a moment, please. Well, my name is Ala Hadib. For those who do not know me, I am from Palestine. I moved to the States in 2016 for a personal reason. And I decided to go with the graduate program in world language education from University of Georgia. Currently, I'm an Arabic teacher at Jonesboro High School. Before I moved to the States, I used to teach ESOL for Palestinian students at high school level. And currently, I'm planning to be, hopefully, a doctorate candidate, PhD student, hopefully at UGA. I miss it. So, and today we're gonna talk and share our ideas and perspectives on the conflict that's going on. Oh, yeah, the t-shirt. So if you notice, we forgot about that. If we notice, we decided to have the same t-shirt. And actually, this is Dr. Misha's idea, not me. It was really amazing because, not just because we're gonna have, similar outfits, it's just to show that despite everything, we have a connection. So this Hamsa t-shirt is basically a symbol for protection in the Jewish culture and also in the Islamic culture, which is amazing to have, or to realize.
Yeah. And Hamsa means five for 5 fingers, so it's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if anyone wants to take a picture.
I was going to ask, is that okay?
Yes, it is, because otherwise I won't have one. Is that, yeah, we love each other. We had a concern from someone in the department that was worried about whether, we were fighting today, or, should we, even someone mentioned, should we have security? And I want you to know that we have been having conversations that have been so utterly peaceful since we met in fall of 2020. When we found out that each other were, that I think you maybe knew, well, you'll talk about that in a moment, but I think you knew I was a Jewish American professor, I'm not sure.
Yeah, all students do that, always try to Google the doctors or professors, who are they? Let's figure out who are they. I'm gonna talk about it, how I felt about it at the beginning.
And I didn't know he was Palestinian when he took my class. That fall was COVID. It was an intimate, small seminar. And when I found out, I was nervous too, because you're one of the first Palestinian people that I've met and gotten to know so intimately and with such care. And our conversations have been so amazing that we've been talking about wishing to share them, and especially in our home field, of language and literacy education, that we shouldn't keep what we've learned to ourselves. So we're here to bravely share, and we know each and every one of you and know that you represent peace and that this event will go really smoothly. So it is Ramadan, the Muslim holiday of Ramadan right now, which seems auspicious, a holiday in celebration of peace. And we will have to-go boxes if you need, after when we eat together, if you're celebrating the fast. And we're also approaching a very important Jewish holiday of Passover. And so it's a beautiful time to be together in spring with new beginnings. Welcome. This is called an LLED conversation about Israel-Palestine from the perspective of language and literacy educators for peace, humility, and mutual understanding. Today's event is sponsored by the Academic Engagement Network, which is a funding resource that wants to see more courageous conversations about Israel and Palestine in public spheres. So we're very lucky to have that funding that is helping to host this event today. And of course, we're very grateful to the UGA Mary Frances Early College of Education, to our home Department of Language and Literacy Education, and to Ron Braxley and the tech people here who are helping to record this event so we can share it with a larger audience in a future occasion. We're going to begin a public dialogue together and have a lunch catered by Phil Conan, who is the owner of Mama Ning's Thai and also does Middle Eastern cuisine, and Fatima Gurel, who has made baklava for us. So it should be really wonderful. I'm sorry for those of you watching on Zoom. We'll get together another time in Middle Eastern delicious meal. So I wanted to remind you all that we have index cards at the front of the room for questions. You can write them at any time today during the talk or afterwards, and certainly email either of us, and we'll have a follow-up conversation recorded where we can answer those questions. And right now, I wanted to tell you before I forget that I am Professor Melissa Kahneman Taylor. Many people call me Misha. Allah calls me Misha. And I teach in the Department of TESOL and World Language Education, which seems like not a clear fit with conversations about Palestine and Israel, but fundamentally, so much of what I believe in is about communication and finding the language to talk through conflict. So I'm really eager to make connections to our home field. And I've been teaching in this department for over 20 years, and Allah is the only Palestinian student I've ever had, and one of the only Semitic students. I've had maybe only one other Jewish student in over 20 years of teaching here. So it felt very special to meet you, and because you feel like mishpacha, which means family.
Thanks.
So without further ado, I want to introduce our moderator today, Zihan Sandra Lin.
Hello, thank you everybody. Good morning. Thank you for coming. I am Sandra Lin, and I'm the PhD student here in LLED at UGA. I graduated here, the same department, master's degree, and I'm so happy to be here today to moderate this conversation with you two. So let's get started.
Okay.
Let's start with an open question for each of you. Why are you here today? What brings you to this conversation? You might want to address how you met each other and your relationship. Allah, would you begin?
Well, I'm here today. Okay, first of all, I'm not a politician. I'm not a historian. I'm here as a common person coming from an area where I grew up. I have to share my experiences, to share my perspectives on what is going on. I'm not trying to be get facts from social media here and there. I'm going to just be who I am. I'm coming here with an open mind, and of course, and a very white heart just to show the world that we can make peace, no matter what perspectives or backgrounds are. And let's be honest, I mean, there's a lot of prejudices and biases around the world, especially about this conflict. It's not because it's just only because there is no a good understanding of what's going on. People do not have a deep understanding of the conflict there, and we need to maybe address these sides or these points just to create some kind of understanding and peaceful solutions maybe, or connection in our communities.
And so why am I here? Is that the question? Mm-hmm. I'm here because Allah is so smart, and I wish everybody could hear from him. He has a really nuanced and complicated understanding from the perspective of a Palestinian, which I think is often missing unless it's a really politicized position. And we've been able to have really vulnerable and scary talks in ways that I haven't heard in the news even very much. I'm here because I'm heartbroken. And I hope I don't cry. I do have tissue behind Ryan if I need it, but I'm really sad about discourses that are fueling the fires of animosity of our peoples against one another, and the rise in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and real wounding, like actual violence against people before October 7th, during October 7th, and since October 7th is frightening. I have a poet teacher, Maxine Kumin. I recommend you reading her poem. It says, please pay attention as the ethics have changed. And I really worry for the changing ethics on this situation. And I'm here to disrupt misperceptions of what Jewish Americans, who they are and what we think, and if we can or cannot have a conversation on hard issues across differences. So here I am to show up for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Second question. What hurts right now about being Jewish Palestinian as an educator in the US? Identify one incident that you found particularly distressing or triggering, and why?
Well, let's talk about what it hurts to be a Palestinian or Jewish in general in the community, not like as an educator in the States, because this has been happening for like many years. It's not like now, but now maybe it got intensified. What hurts the most as a Palestinian, I'm going to talk from my perspective, is that when I was back home, I mean, I grew up learning that, you know what, okay, this is our land and we need to fight, we need to resist, we need to get our land back. And this is how I grew up. And also when I came to the States, I started seeing this kind of different perspective because I haven't been involved in a community to show me like other perspectives. I came here, I learned a lot about other communities, like Jewish communities, all kind of communities. I think I grew intellectually about that, where I started looking differently from the different side on the whole region. As an educator, what hurts, especially nowadays, is I'm really, really, really disappointed by the education system here because, especially in my school, I did not get any support. No one even asked me how I feel, or no one even approached me asking, what's going on? Are you affected? Is your family like anything, like to show me some kind of sympathy? I did not get any of that, even from my students and the administration. And now I'm afraid even to bring the word Palestine. I'm very cautious to talk about Palestine. Even when my student asks me, I don't want to be, I am kind of a person I do not like to brainwash. I like to state facts and be kind of cautious, and I let the students to interpret that, and I let them judge it. I'm not want to just, create kind of, again, like brainwashing. So the another thing is no one seems to talk about it in the schools, at all, which is really, why can't we talk about that? Why can't we create some kind of a peaceful conversations among even the teachers together? Like maybe we could create some kind of a, one night just to talk about what's going on so we can be aware as teachers what's going on in the region. And maybe we can make our students think critically or just, let them just decide what's going on, because this generation is the only hope for us to create some kind of peace, because we have been waiting for peace for years and it doesn't seem like it's happening. So yes, I am heartbroken every day. And I hope that one day as educators will stand and not speak the truth, let's say speak to talk about ways to create a peaceful communities among Palestinian and Jewish or Israeli communities.
Could you repeat the first part?
What hurts right now
What hurts right now?
about being Jewish?
I think what's hurting right now is the fracturing of Jewish community. There is really different responses among Jewish people to what has happened and what has been happening. Some Jewish people feel that the acts of terror on October 7th were so great that the only thing left to us is to have war and to to hate. And to forget that Hamas, to stop naming Hamas and to start labeling all of Palestine or all of Palestinians. That's really frightening to me, that we people of the book, educated people, all of us here, that there's such a easy attraction to binaries, to good and evil, to good guy, bad guy. What hurts is also to see Jewish people on the far left calling for the dissolve of Israel and that we should all be diasporic Jews. I don't know how many people are familiar with this argument, but many members of the Jewish Voices for Peace want to just, if we have to exist in a state that has oppression, then we should leave and we should not be in Israel, which is, I have many family members in Israel. Israel is the home to 50% of Jewish people in the world. It is a place I consider an ancestral homeland. I do not agree with that, either sides of these opinions. And they're very loud voices and they're occupying a lot of space. So it hurts even to see in my own community that kind of fracturing. It also hurts for me to see those of us in the middle concede to a kind of erasure. We're being really quiet right now, maybe silent, and not doing things like this because they're too scary, because we might say the wrong thing, we might offend someone, I might offend my dear friend. It is scary, but I do, and not asking enough questions. You know, I am reading everything I can about the Middle East. I am book after book, article after article, long articles. I'm posting them, and I still feel relatively ignorant about the history of the Middle East. But I see so many people posting quick, knee-jerk meme reactions that with words that are really triggering of a lot of ancestral trauma on many sides of this war. And it's thoughtless and it seems almost purposefully to engage rage. And I don't think that has anything to do with the peace that we so desperately need. And I do believe that peace in the world hinges a great deal on what is happening in this region. So we all have to find more courage, but it's really scary to experience the hurt of being a Jewish person right now in that situation. And as an educator, I'm not sure if that was a part of the question or not, but finding the language to talk with students. Many of my students read theories by people who for a long time have been anti-Israel, I will say. I love so many ideas by the great Judith Butler, but I really worry about the ways in which sometimes what she writes or Cornel West or other terrific thinkers and scholars and writers, you know, I'm in the world of poetry and fiction, and some of my greatest heroes in the literary arts world are also writing vitriolic, one-sided perspectives, which really scares me. So how do you fill that gap? How do we find the language? Here we are in language and literacy education. How do we find any language in any language to disrupt misinformation and disinformation and silence? Yeah.
Thank you. How have the events of October 7 impacted your identity? How do your personal stories relate to your experience in the region before October 7th?
Do you want me to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay. So before October 7th, I had been to Israel 3 times. I have family who are Chabad Orthodox who, you know, wear black hats and tefillin and have payas, and I have secular Israeli family. I have Jewish American family who are conservative and Orthodox, all the spectrum, and those of us who celebrate Christmas and eat bacon and the whole gamut. So it's a wide spread. And when I graduated college, there's a program called Birthright that helps fund Jewish people to go to Israel. You know, there's a lot of, we say that Jews don't proselytize except to other Jews. Like we want Jewish people to stay Jewish because we're such a minority in the world that it's really important. And part of that Jewish identity is experiences in Israel. So I'd missed the opportunity to have what people call as a free trip to Israel. And at the time, it's always been dangerous to go to Israel, and it's always been one of these things that if you know people who live in Israel, they'll say, you know, everybody has to have a picnic, no? Like everybody accepts that there's a level of danger, and everybody lives their life anyhow. And so I was invited by my aunt, who lives in Tel Aviv, to go to Israel for my first of what would be 3 trips, and experienced a wonderful traveling experience. And during that time, it was the second Intifada. And I had decided one day not to go to Sfat, which is a spiritual center, and not to go to the very famous marketplace or souk in Jerusalem. And that day, 2 people had entered that souk with explosive vests and blown it up, and everyone there had been killed. So I felt that even during my short time as a traveler in Israel, how close you are to death. Now, as a poet, Garcia Lorca has a term for this, duende, that to be close to death is exciting for an artist, but it's not really that exciting. You really want to come back whole and alive. But it made me, every time I'm there, I'm aware of the great risk and the great beauty of living and being in Israel. I went on another experience when I was invited by the English Teachers Association of Israel to give a keynote talk at their annual English conference. That was a great honor. And I remember speaking, and there was all the ESOL teachers from, Israeli Palestinians, Israeli Arabs of all kinds, Israeli Jews, Orthodox Jews with the head coverings, and secular Jews. Every span of life, of Israeli and Palestinian life, was represented, I felt, in this meeting. But you could tell just how they looked. And we were all there for one purpose: how to learn how to teach English in better ways. It was so amazing. And I felt a connection with the audience in a similar way that I feel when we talk, like just a kind of cultural love of the arts. I teach how to teach through theater and poetry, how to teach language through engaging, lively ways. So I felt at that time that there was hope in that moment. That the English language and the pursuit of excellence in language instruction could be a unifying element. That gave me an exciting time. You said, how do they experience the region before? Did I miss any part?
No,
Okay,
that's great.
or you just help me out if I did.
No, you're
Allah,
good.
what about you?
Well, I lived in Palestine, in Ramallah city, for a long time. So if I share my stories, we're not gonna end. But I'm gonna just highlight just major events that happened in my life as a Palestinian, and I'm gonna share a personal thing, and I hope they're gonna cut it with the video because it's gonna be just for us. Again, I was born in Kuwait, and we had to flee because of the Gulf War. So I remember, I was 8 years old. And I remember fleeing Kuwait by car, from Kuwait to Palestine. I do not know how many kilometers or miles, but imagine it's like from Kuwait to Jordan. Jordan, if you can see here, Kuwait is
Allah,
closer to
could
Saudi
you
Arabia.
point them out for us if they're the important regions are?
Yeah, but
the
it's
map.
going to be to the east of Saudi Arabia, and we went to Saudi Arabia, then Jordan, then to Palestine with car.
Oh, wow.
This is when my brother got heat stroke, I think we call it heat stroke, and now he's disabled. So this has nothing to do with the Israeli side. Wow. So we went to Palestine, and then we started the first Intifada. The first Intifada basically is the Palestinian resistance against Israel, and I experienced that. I was really a kid. I did not remember a lot. But I remember in the second Intifada, we sometimes, there are some days we were not allowed to leave our houses. We cannot even get groceries because a lot of Israeli soldiers coming just to make some their weekly searches for any kind of terrorist groups. Then I started growing up more and more. I'm not gonna lie. I got into a group where I start going to checkpoints. I start throwing stones because that's how I grew up. It's like a form of resistance. And I got actually hurt, shot, but it was not major shot. As I was growing up, I started realizing this is not the resistance that I want to do, just throwing stones. Maybe I can get like good education and just be involved in like peacemaking instead of just resisting. While I was being involved in these kind of meetings and groups in Palestine, we used to meet with Israeli, not activists, but like common people who really want to have some peaceful discussions. We used to meet in one of our friends' house just to avoid any kind of, dangerous, and I know what we call it, dangerous maybe attacks. It was really kind of intimidating for me because as a Palestinian, it's common that if a Palestinian was a friend with an Israeli, we have this kind of stereotype, not stereotype, somebody help me with English here.
Mindset.
Yeah, that we are like traitors.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was really kind of intimidating for me. I don't know if any one of you know that we have a wall, do you know, by Jerusalem, around Jerusalem. So I decided to go to Jerusalem, and unfortunately, when I go to Jerusalem, I have to have a permit. And I applied for this permit and got denied many times. And I knew that a lot of people from my age and that they applied for this permit, but they got it. When I asked why, they told me because it was through the church. So then I realized it's kind of against, and because I'm Muslim. Anyway, so I decided to go to Jerusalem illegally. I climbed the wall, and I jumped on the top of the wall to go to the other side, which I broke my leg. I went to Jerusalem with a broken leg. And I met the most amazing people there. They were like the Jews, they were Israelis, they were like amazing people. And then I started realizing this is different from what I know. It's not about land, it's not about people, it's about power, period. This is what I realized then. I mean, I was there singing, drinking, eating, dancing, talking, laughing, walking by the beach, and some Israeli gay person came and just asked me if I need help because my leg was really swollen, took me to their house, and I told them I cannot go to any hospital. I need to go back to Palestine because, I don't have a permit. I'm a Palestinian. So, and he risked himself and took me from Jerusalem to Ramallah, dropped me off, and I called my brother and came and picked me up. It was like a bittersweet memory. It was, but I gained I changed my mind about a lot of things. And I mean, again, that makes me really think, again, it's not about the people of Israel or the Jewish community. It's not at all. So that's why I stopped, having this kind of stereotype or this kind of bias against the Israeli people. So this was before October 7th, and I don't want to share too many stories. I have a lot to share, but this is not the idea. The idea is when October 7th happened, it triggers a lot of these memories, a lot. It reminds me of when my brother got arrested. It reminds me of my nephews who lived with us get traumatized because of like the soldiers who just break into our house to arrest my brother because my brother used to throw stones at checkpoints, which is again, it's supposed to be the form of resistance. And demolishing my neighbor's house because there was a person living there and he does not want to leave. And we found out that he had a lot of bombs and weapons in the house. They demolished the house and he was in it and he died. So all of that is because of October 7th. I will start kind of having, and I shared this with Dr. Misha, and I told you, like, I don't know how to feel. I mean, at some point I was like, you know what? Yes, I mean, Israel is our enemy and we have to do this and that. And at other hand, I was like, no, I have to remind myself that there are people like us. We cannot generalize just because 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 politicians are making decisions. So it was really like I had a huge internal conflict.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. So when we look at this map, when I was in Israel, I rented a car to go to the Dead Sea, which is that water between Israel and Jordan. And I made a wrong turn, and within minutes, I was at a checkpoint, and it was with soldiers and big guns, and this was during the Intifada, and so I was afraid. And I thought, how is it so easy for someone? It's so easy because it's right there. You can't be anywhere in Jerusalem without being on the border. But the West Bank is all the way over here, and Gaza is that tiny piece over there. And we talk about Palestine as if it's one thing. What does the space, the difference, the distance, what is the geographic and political difference and distances between what's going on in Gaza and how people are in the West Bank? Does that make sense?
Yeah. There is two political parties. In the West Bank, we have one political party. We have in Gaza, we have political party, which is Hamas. And they usually do not get along. So that's why, because, it's very, I don't want to go involved in history because we're going to get some kind of other perspectives.
Yeah.
We don't want to discuss it. But yes, as Palestinian, I call it Palestine. Right? Like all of it. This is me.
Including the white part.
All
like
of it. We
everything.
call it Palestine. That's why the naming is kind of different for each side, for each community. So that's why. Did I answer your question? Or?
I guess I just don't understand when all of this destruction is happening in Gaza, do people in the West Bank feel like it's happening to them too?
Of course, because they are Palestinian at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It is Palestine. Like Gaza and West Bank, it is Palestine. But it was, divided due to a lot of political decisions, which we don't want to talk about.
Right, we're not talking about. Okay, there's many things we will talk about in
Thank
another
you so
point.
much for sharing all these very personal stories.
Yeah.
Please discuss how the complications of this war have affected your teaching careers in language and language teacher education and training.
As I said before at the beginning, complications, it makes it really difficult for me to talk freely about my country. Now, if I want to talk about Palestine, I have to talk about Israel. And I have to educate myself about the region more deeply because I don't want to talk about Palestine and leave it like this. Like, for example, I showed my students 2 weeks ago, I found a documentary for Rick Steves. If you are familiar with him, he's a great traveler. So he made a very good documentary without any biases or prejudice or whatever about Palestine and Israel. It was really great documentaries. It's 25 minutes about Palestine, 25 minutes about Israel. And I asked my students, do not ask me any questions. What do I think? I want you to think. And I asked him to write like an essay about both sides. What do you think about these? What are the connections? So I start using my everything that I learned from you, from other amazing instructors here that I owe you a lot. I used a lot of approaches just to let them think critically. This is what I learned from UGA. We have to let our students think on their own critically, and there is nothing called wrong or right. This is your perspective, this is your identity, this is your thoughts. Just form it, shape it, talk about it, express it, and make the piece as a base or background of your knowledge.
Yeah, except that it's so hard for even the very smartest people to be able to hold both. And you getting back to that sad part, or you had asked about education. So I went to teach in my classroom at Lamar Dodd School of Art, and outside, one of the print students had put in big butcher paper all over the School of Art, Free Palestine in block letters, Pre-Palestine, Pre-Palestine. And this is pretty close to October 7th. And that really bothered me because I thought it's just emblematic of the discourses. It seems to be that in every situation, it's you choosing one side or the other. It has to be about the atrocious acts of Hamas, the extremism in the Israeli side. Like there has to be a both and. There has to be sympathy for the peoples who are, and I don't want to talk a numbers game. What drives me crazy, only this many hostages. Give me a break. What happened to 100 people or 300 people, hundreds of people on October 7th and since is devastating. What is happening to thousands of Palestinians now is devastating. No religion supports murdering and loss of life. None. Why can't we agree on that? Well, we couldn't agree on the vaccine. We couldn't agree on, anything. So it's not about, it's the political powers that are playing with all of us in our lives. And we need to unify. And so as a teacher, it's hard to have students, alum of this program, in fact, on October 7th, maybe it was October 8th, screaming over TikTok or whatever social media platform, from the river to the sea or Free Palestine. I mean, the depth of people wanting to get likes and friends and audiences by extremist positions that don't acknowledge the long history. And we can recommend readings to you, lengthy articles. It's really worrisome to me to hear people mapping Armenian genocide onto this situation, to using these languages of terror and genocide and ceasefire and all these words that seem to mean so much, but without really exploring their complexity. This is the essence of teaching vocabulary. You talk to me about teaching Arabic. You can't teach Arabic without teaching something of the Muslim religion. You can't teach Arabic without teaching the diaspora and the so many Arabic speakers around the world. And ironically, we talk about Semitic. We're both Semitic language, Hebrew and Arabic and Aramaic are all Semitic languages. So when you say anti-Semitism, it's against both of us. So I want to be teaching into that and having more conversations across difference into that.
That's actually my next question. As language educators and poet professor, you are always focused on vocabulary, lexical choices, or diction. That's what we say in poetry class. How do you navigate contested terms, controversial terms being used now, such as apartheid, terrorism, genocide, Zionism, Islamophobia, white supremacy, et cetera, as well as the explicit or implicit languages of religion associated with second or foreign language education?
Well, this is like a huge topic, to be honest with you. And as I stated before, I'm becoming, again, as I said many times, I'm very aware, I'm very careful when I choose what to teach and what to talk about. But I share my ideas with my students by pointing out to the fact that, there is a lot of misuse of terms like, anti-Semitism, Islamophobic, and no one understands the depth or the meaning actually of these terms. They just want to use it just because it sounds like it's a big term. Let's use that, anti-Semitic. And as Dr. Misha said, well, if you think about it, it's anti-Semitic is like anti-Jews or even Palestinians or Arabs, right? They don't even know that. Some people do not know that, especially students. And let's be honest, students want to just have TikTok and dance and just be happy, and that's it. They do not know, and they just whenever see anti-Semitic, this means what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but they do not know the true meaning of these words. That's why I make sure that students know that anybody who is Palestinian or Israeli, it's basically just national identity, just that's it. And I always make them aware that they need to stop generalizing, and they need to know that these conflicts are concluded by decisions made by politicians only. So you cannot blame all Israeli people for one Israeli politician who just decided to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or vice versa. You cannot blame all Palestinians because one group or the other just decided to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is not all Israelis. This is not all Jews. This is not all Muslims. This is not all Arabs. This is not all Palestinians. We have to be aware. We cannot generalize. And at some point, I started giving examples about the African American too. Or other races. I have to make connections so they can understand that we cannot generalize. We have to be very, very careful when we talk about Israel or Palestine. And I need to remind them, Israeli people or Palestinians, we are human beings. So stop targeting human beings. You are human beings. We are the same thing, all of us. And I mean, when they see this from a Palestinian perspective, I just hope that this kind of make a little bit of change in their mindsets, and maybe they can share this knowledge with other communities or their families, because I'm trying to make here peace. I know I'm not like an influencer. I don't like social media anyway, but I'm trying just to create a sense of peace that we are lacking and we are hoping for generations. And I want to take this kind of conflict to make a platform for myself to create a peace, especially in that region that has, I mean, it's been since 1948 and even before. It's crazy, and we cannot even make anything. That doesn't seem that there is a lot of people do the thing that we do. They just want to just be, I'm Palestinian, I'm against Israel. We're gonna do whatever it takes. Well, haven't we already done whatever it takes? What did we get? Nothing.
Yeah.
We have another conflict.
You said something the other day that shook me because on October 8th, I think I have a group of women I work out with, and we met that next morning and we talked about it, and maybe one person said something like, or the way they talked about it led, I don't remember the exact vocabulary, but it was like an act of resistance. And I was heartbroken after hearing about what happened. And I was like, no, that was an act of terrorism. That was not an act of resistance. And I was like, I'm insistent on that October 7th was a disgusting, there is nothing I can say, you know, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little filled with rage because to hear that somehow that was justified, that level of brutality, there is no justification for it. We are now at war. I don't know what is justified during war. I know there are lots of people trying to give language of what's justifiable violence. October 7th was not justifiable violence. And I called it terrorism. And that word terrorism is in your question. And your response yesterday, or when we were going over the questions, was when I hear terrorism, I think me, or something like that. Why did you say that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think because this is what everything has to do. I mean, this is the stereotype, let's be honest. And let's not be like surprised. We all know that. Like whenever it comes to Muslims, the word terrorism is just, I feel like it's about me or about, I don't know why. It's just our ignorance maybe. Maybe our ignorance and our generalizations about stuff. When I say our, of course, not us, but I mean, people who are not educated about that topic. I really do not know. I mean, I'm gonna share a very short story. I know we have just 10 minutes. When I first came to the States and I started working as an educator at public schools, because it's a new program and I came like maybe a week after the school started, I had this teacher was kind of shadowing me. And when I asked why this person's shadowing me, is that the right word, shadowing? Okay. The principal told me, because you're new, if you need any help or something, because I'm new to the whole educational system. And then after like 3 days, and I was like, I have been teaching since 2008, so I can manage that. I mean, they are not monsters. I can manage that. And I told the teacher, if you don't mind, like I can manage my school. I'm not trying to be rude. You can just leave because I'm not feeling comfortable to teach while you're watching me. The next day, he left for that moment. The next day, he came back. I didn't say anything. And I was teaching just words in Arabic. I mean, I'm going to try to build a vocabulary here. And I was just, doing games and stuff. And that teacher came and just looked at my laptop through my lesson plan. I was like, excuse me, sir, what are you doing? He said, I want to make sure you're not teaching about Islam. Exactly. And I was like, what do you think I'm going to teach about Islam? I don't even practice Islam. So, exactly. So we had a clash and I had to go to the principal. I was like, I really do not want this person to be in my class, or I can leave and he can teach my class. Did he leave? No. The next day, I had a window in my door. He used just to come and just look at me. So this is kind of why I think whenever we say terrorism, inside of me, I have this internal feeling where I was like, is this me? Is it talking about me or my, religion or my background? Yeah, and I did not feel this until I came here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
I mean, because we were like in a very closed area. I was not exposed to other, identities.
So the similar, not a similar, totally different experience related to that is my experience of the word Zionism right now. Because when I went to Israel for the first, the second, the third time, I love Israel. Israel is was a sanctuary for my family. My grandfather left Munich, Germany in 1936. Just barely got out alive because we had distant relatives in Atlanta. Through genealogy, he stayed in touch. We barely got out. His parents did not. They were killed in different manners on the way from sickness. The whole thing was a horrible experience that I'm writing up and will be published this summer in Hadassah magazine. I will be glad to share that to you. But his immigration story is so complicated, and two of his sisters escaped to Israel. One before 1933, so legally, and the other illegally fled, went on a boat. The boat sank. She had to swim to shore. It's a long, complicated story, and it was not a legal entry, but Israel was a sanctuary and provided an escape route for those two great aunts of mine and for my grandfather, America. But it was not easy to get visas to America. It wasn't easy to get out of Munich or anywhere in Germany, and my great uncle is like one of the only survivors to have images all over Dachau, the concentration camp. Holocaust history is very much alive in my family, and to hear Zionism, which for so long was this treasured place, like a Wakanda, if you follow. What's that movie called? Black Panther. I mean, Israel is like Wakanda of Black Panther for Jewish people. It's a place of sanctuary. Now, it's not without great complications. But to hear now, Zionism is like a code word for white supremacy to many people, or for racism. It's an ism. There's a lot of Jewish people who are saying they're anti-Zionist or post-Zionist. I don't know. Zionism, maybe it's certainly connected to the year I was born, how I grew up. It's a hope for a better world. It's a hope for peace. And so to now see Zionism in the news and social media being so twisted and contaminated with these other kinds of words like white supremacy and settler colonialism and genocide, it's just so devastating to not allow a word to have its complicated and historical nuance and shifts and changes, and to let the word be, for gosh sakes. But I had another thought in there. Oh, so much to say.
It's okay because of the timing.
So
we have 2 or 3 more questions.
Okay.
If he comes back, we can talk
Okay.
about it for sure. It seems like, very obviously, you two have a really good relationship as, professor, teacher, and teacher educator. What have you found helpful, you two's relationship together, from Jewish and Palestinian perspective, like your identity? What have you learned from each other that has impacted your own understanding of the conflict in the Middle East?
Well, it's not about understanding. I feel like my relationship with Dr. Misha, I mean, again, she's the first Jewish professor that treated me fairly. I mean, I hope I put the words correctly, which I mean, like, she's the first Jewish professor that I interacted, and I feel like more comfortable. And in her class, I told you many times, I was very introvert, is that a word? I keep it to myself. I'm afraid to share my ideas. I don't like to talk. I don't like to be the funny teacher. I like to be strict because this is how I brought up, to be strict teacher and with the ruler in your hand. If anyone from the Arab world understand that, right? I mean, so I was very strict, and because of her class, that just make me like, it's all about games, drama-based pedagogy and all of that. And the way she just make me feel like I started feeling kind of more comfortable with her. Yes, this is like in the past, before October 7. After that, I mean, the fact that she suggested that talk, I was really nervous. I mean, without her, I would not have been here because I'm not that courageous person, honestly speaking. I mean, she pushed me to the limit, and I was thinking, you know what? I'm not doing anything to my country. Maybe this is the platform that she provides me is going to be the place where I could talk about my country and the conflict and about peace, my vision, because this is what's going to work, just peace. I'm going to keep saying, okay, you know what? I want Palestine to be, just Palestine and that's it. I mean, it's not going to happen. Let's just think about it like rationally. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. And also, it's not me who going to think about, okay, all these Jews that they have like a sacred place there just to ask, okay, you know what, let them go. I don't know where, I don't care. No, it's not, that's not me. And it was hard for me to voice these opinions. I mean, and how many times we talked, I told you, I don't want to do it. At some point, I was like, I don't want to do that.
He's
This is too
canceled
much.
this event several times.
And I'm sure if we air that, I'm going to lose a lot of people, and I really don't care.
Yeah.
I already lost a friend, and I know that you told me you lost one of
Yes.
your community members. We did lose a lot. And I mean, you know what? If this is going to be the cost, I don't care. As long as we're bringing up an understanding and have like an open mind about the conflict, this is what I want. And I feel like now more comfortable. Like, I mean, when we started, I was nervous and heart beating. Now I'm chill. And this is because of you and your support.
Well, I've felt completely supported by you. He helps when I make a terrible mistake. He also catches it and just gentle. I want to take time to share, but I'm totally imperfect, and he seems to be okay with that, which is great. But I did have an experience. I teach one of the 3 ESOL endorsement classes here, which is for English for speakers of other languages, and the course is called Language and Culture. And in there, I have started recording English language learners for my students to analyze the errors that they make and the wonderful possibilities that come when you're learning another language. And I have them look at what about culture comes through in their second language. So I know a lot of people in Israel, and I have several interviews with Israeli English language learners. And I said to Allah, he was going back. I don't know if you knew I was going to share this, but I'm sharing it. He went back to visit his family, and he heard about this assignment. Maybe you even took the class. I think you took the class. And he's like, oh, I could get you some English speakers from Palestine, and you could interview them. And I was like, great. And he's in Palestine. I don't hear from him for many days, weeks go by. And I go, hey, Allah, you said you were going to hook me up on Zoom with some people from Palestine that I could interview for the class. And you didn't say much at all, and then you came with me and you said, "Do you want to share what you said?"
You said
all right. What I think he said was, "I asked several English learners and English speakers in Palestine, and no one would do it because you're Jewish." So that really, it's not far. Like, it's hard to have conversation. It's not like the way the news makes it out is like peace is just Israel's fault or peace is just Hamas's fault. This is like all sides of life don't want anything to do. We dehumanize each other. That really hurt my feelings because I'm like, I'm just a scholar, and why did you have to tell them I'm Jewish? But maybe if he'd but why? Yeah, why did you?
Yeah, it's just like, because to me, I took it from my perspective, because this is like a very interesting and amazing opportunity to bring some kind of, again, peace. This is my real, my favorite word. And I was happy to say that. I mean, at the end of the day, let's be honest, they're going to figure it out. And I don't want to be kind of just say, oh, let's meet. And they're going to accuse me that I'm the one who is the traitor.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things I have to consider here. I mean, it's a lot. So,
Yeah. So it's,
It's very tough to be in the middle, I guess, for that specific incident. And what do you feel is left out, missing, or wrong in current discussions, debates, in education and public discourses? I know we've touched base some of that. Is there any additional?
Yeah, I'm gonna be very
points you
brief.
wanna
It's
talk
just
about?
the thing that's everything is left out, because no one talks about this situation. No one wants to talk. Even when I say, for example, at one point I had my nephew send me I didn't share this with you, a video or a picture on my phone. He's in the 4th grade, and send me the rockets in the sky. And it just broke my heart, and I broke down there. And principal assistant, I asked her if she can find somebody to cover my class. She said, well, you can maybe sit and let them do an assignment. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm here broken down. You want me to sit down and have a moment of silence and let the student? I don't want to be around anybody. I want to leave. And this is what's left out. We need support for Jewish educators, for Palestinian educators, Israeli, anybody who is from that area. We need some kind of support because we are going through a lot. And again, no one seems to talk about it. No one even asks. And when we talk about it, they are just listeners. They do not, engage in the talk at all. And I was thinking, is this on purpose, or this is because you do not know what's going on? Or is this, I do not know, actually, and this breaks my heart. So I think this is what's left. Why can't we talk about it?
Yeah, and I guess for me, what's left out, I keep thinking that someday we will all live in this college and in this world where diversity, equity, and inclusion offices really are inclusive, equitable, and diverse. I'm just tired of kind of ad hoc adding when a community experiences tragic violence. Oh, all of a sudden we remember Asian Americans or Chinese Americans. All of a sudden we remember what it is to be in community with queers, transgender, Come on, it should have a different way of framing, of holding the hurts that human beings are endlessly capable of doing to one another. What could that office be called? The office of healing? The office of dialogue? The office, something else that someone else will rise up from the right or the left side and critique it. But we need another kind of framing of what those spaces hold and how we can all see ourselves in it. Even the whitest Christian, male person of straight sexuality, that everybody can be held in that office. That's the office we'll build. Yeah.
Thank you. This is the ending question for both of you today. What is your personal vision for the future in the Middle East? Do you see a path forward for peace for the current and future generations? For our children,
I will
for our
answer
students?
briefly. I have very little hope right now. I'm really, really, really scared. And I am not going to pretend that I think this is all going away and going to go well in my lifetime. Unless every one of us starts having the courage to break with the myths and ask good questions of each other and find better language. But right now, I have 2 teenagers. I've always thought I would send my children to Israel. I always thought that maybe even someday I might move there. I am afraid of the region in a way that I've never been before. All those deaths, they have afterlives. All of those deaths have generations of afterlives. And if that trauma isn't held with some incredible unknown skill, the only hope I find is in that Jose something or other that sent the kitchen food. World Kitchen. That's the only place I find hope, is if we break bread together, and that's what we're going to do shortly. What about you?
Hope. I don't have any hope when it comes to leadership. I do not have any hope. I don't even think that the Palestinian president or the Israeli president will do anything about peace. But my hope is to see each Palestinian having to reach out to a hand of a Jew or Israeli and just be together, and that's it. My hope.
Amen. And
Yep.
I think we should end on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Not planned.